Zoomers, Millennials, Gen X, Baby Boomers, Silent Generation. There was 2 generations before that. I think it was the Depression generation? The greatest generation. Because they fought World War II. And then before that, World War I, which was the lost generation. And there might be some lost generation people. Anybody around that was alive during the World War I, like between 1914 and 1917. Like if my great-grandmother was still alive. Because she was born in 1912, the same year as Ronald Reagan. So he's the lost generation. But he's dead. So that's like, if you're like 110 or like maybe 105, 103, there's an actress around that's still alive that was in Gone with the Wind that is 103, so she's the lost generation. She was born in 1917. So those are pretty much what's still alive. Before that, it was like, I guess it would be like the 20th century, before the 20th century, 19th century, like after the Civil War generation, and another generation after that. Like the Wild West generation was the 1880s, and then the Civil War generation was 1860s, I'm sorry. And then like 1900s would be like the Victorian era generation, or the Industrial Revolution generation. So generation is between 15 and 20 years. And I've had Zoomers that didn't want to be called Zoomers, even though they were like 19. They wanted to be considered millennials. But they're Zoomers, the Generation Z, and they call them Zoomers because first they called them Generation Z because it was after Generation Y, which was after Generation X. And so the Generation Y became the millennials because they turned 18 around the millennium. And then Generation Z because X, Y, Z. And then they call them Zoomers because at the breakneck speed in which they are using social media and talking on their phones, zooming around out there, IRL, and on the internet. So that's why they call them Zoomers. And meeting them is really fun because they're like younger than a lot of my family. Like I have nieces that are Zoomers. I have 3 nieces that are Zoomers. But like hearing them talk, it's like these little kids that talk like adults because they're like 18 to 24. Sometimes you meet them and they are like 4. I mean, like 4 between 24, but then you meet like 18-year-olds and 21-year-olds, and they just talk like grown-ups, but they look like little kids. So that's always fun. And pretty much what you say that they're going to do, they'll do. Like if you're older, if you're like my age, if you say that they're badasses, they're going to be badasses. If you tell them that they're well-behaved, they're going to be well-behaved. Unless they have a reason, they usually go in the good direction that you push them. So, like, that's your responsibility as the adult in the situation. But I have a rule with them. If I'm hanging out with women's, because I didn't set this rule down. If I'm hanging out with adult women Zoomers in this group, I'm not interested in platonic friendship. So that's my rule. If you want to hang out with me and there are women in the group, I'm not interested in platonic friendship. So I better get some phone numbers and some video chat or something. So the way I want to begin is I want to take one on a date to Steam Plant, and I'll pay $100 if I think that the date went well. I'm not going to ask for sex, though. No matter how much sex you give me, I'm not going to give you to the second date. If you're nice to me, you'll get to the second date. So the sex does not matter. And I'll do this for 4 dates, where I give you $100 to go on the date with me. Just sit down and eat a meal with me, have a conversation with me, and don't be bored and don't be mean. And you'll earn the $100. If we do this 4 times, then I think that you're relationship material, because I want to have kids someday, and you're the most fertile. So, no lady boys, even though I'm fully in support of same-sex marriage and the alphabet soup. But I want to have children. I mean, if you had a sex change operation and you have a reproductive system that can carry a child to term, like a womb and fallopian tubes and whatnot, well, we're probably living in the future. Because while that's possible, there's one case that I know about. It was a guy who had a womb put in him. So, I mean, if you had the full sex change operation and you have a womb and can carry a child to term, then I don't care if you were born a man.